Welcome back to the journey of marriage. This is session 2. Last time, we spoke in session 1 that marriage is a journey towards oneness, where we want our happily ever after. That's what God wants with us. Today, and last week, so we talked about how do we speak towards oneness, how we change our pronouns from I, mine, to we and ours. We change the way we think of things, and to understand your problem is also my problem is also your problem. And we're going to learn how to navigate through these differences, challenges, problems, and how to work towards oneness. And so within the journey of marriage, we'll experience dangers along the way. And so we see the people in the picture here, they're falling off the track. So GPS for marriage. In this session, we introduce to you a kind of GPS for marriage, which means that you'll have some valuable information to help you navigate along the journey of marriage, with the detours, potholes, and surprises that you encounter along the way. So the path towards oneness, we'll review, alluded towards a path towards heaven. We call it a journey to salvation, and it looks like this. We have our differences, difficulties, disagreements, and conflict. But then we have conflict resolution, intimacy, oneness, and salvation. As couples respond constructively, they get themselves back on track. But then we'll talk about the slippery slope. Along the way, there will be a fork in the road. You will have a choice to walk towards oneness or to follow a second path. Let's take a look closer at the second path. We're going to look at some of Dr. John Gottman's work. In particular, we're going to look at what he calls the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, a reference from the book of Revelation. In the book of Revelation, St. John the theologian uses the image of the 4 horsemen to signal the beginning of the end of time. And we'll read in the book, a white horse, its rider, had a bow, and a crown was given to him, and he went out conquering and to conquer. And out came another horse, bright red. Its rider was permitted to take peace from the earth, so that men should slay one another. And I saw, and behold, a black horse, and its rider had a balance in his hand. And I saw, and behold, a pale horse, and its rider's mane was death. And Hades followed him. We read this in the book of Revelations, chapter 6, 2 through 8. John Gottman uses this image of the 4 horsemen as a sign that a marriage is moving towards meltdown and divorce. When these 4 horsemen begins to appear in your marriage, they signal the beginning of the end. The 4 horsemen: criticism, contempt, defensiveness, and stonewalling. So when we have differences, difficulties, disagreements, and conflict, if we are unable to resolve conflict, we have unresolved conflict, criticism, contempt, defensiveness, stonewalling, decreased marital satisfaction, marital meltdown, and divorce. When couples have conflictual issues, the 4 horsemen appear, and this leads to the decreased marriage, satisfaction, meltdown, and divorce. We read in the service of the crowning, O Lord our God, through your plan of salvation, you've declared and confirmed marriage to be honorable by your presence in Cana of Galilee. Do you yourself now, O Lord, preserve in peace and concord your servants, whom you have willed to be joined together in marriage by your blessing. Reveal their marriage to be honorable, preserve their conjugal life in purity, bless their married life to be without any stain of sin, and to remain in faithful chastity. Make them worthy, O Lord, to reach a ripe old age, together and to keep your commandments with a pure heart. This prayer from the wedding ceremony can help the 2 of you stay on the path towards intimacy, oneness, and salvation. But there's dangerous curves ahead. Anyone not attentive to his or her marriage can end up slipping down this path. How can we make this claim? we'll consider the following statistics. We live in a culture of divorce. 40 to 50% of all marriages end in divorce. 30% of all couples report being unhappy. 50% of all divorces occur during the first 7 years. 45% of first marriages will not see their 25th anniversary. 40% of all children will grow up without one biological parent in the house. What these statistics imply: many couples who begin their marriage hoping the journey on the right track end up slipping down this slippery slope. It's easy for couples to find themselves on this wrong path. So preparing for marriage means learning how to spot the dangers that indicate you are going down the wrong path in marriage. You don't want to become one of these statistics. In the prayer of the removal of the crowns during the wedding service, we say, "O God, our God, who were present in Cana of Galilee and who blessed marriage there, bless also these your servants who by your providence have now been united in the community of marriage. Bless them as you go in and out of their home and fill their life with everything that is good." If couples make the wrong choices when they get to the fork in the road, the first horseman appears on the slippery slope. Criticism. The first horseman is criticism. There are two types of criticism: constructive criticism and destructive criticism, which means that all criticism is bad. Constructive criticism focuses on the issue or the problem. Following are two examples, and we have our stories. So Bill and Maria, 2 months after their honeymoon. Bill and Maria are getting comfortable with each other, and they're starting to fall into their old habits, which they had before they were married. Bill starts leaving his socks on the floor. Maria starts picking them up like she thinks a good wife should. But after the 5th or so times, it starts getting old. She needs to do something more than simply picking up after him. So she says, "Bill, let's talk. I like a clean bedroom. Would you mind picking up your dirty socks?" Bill, now realizing that it bothers her, says, "Sorry, I didn't realize I did that. I'll pick them up and I promise to do better." And he does better. So they talked about the problem. Socks on the floor. I like a clean bedroom. He hears her, he responds in the affirmative, and he does better. 1 month later, Maria and Greek time. And for those of you who are unfamiliar, Greek time is anywhere between 20, 30 minutes late. Maria seems to be always on Greek time. Bill likes to be on time. At first, he is patient, but after Maria is late several times, he decides to address the issue. He says, "Maria, let's talk. When you're late, that really bothers me. It's important to me that we are on time. I'd really appreciate it if you would try to be on time." And Maria, in response, says, "I'm sorry. I'll try to do better." And she does better. In both instances, Bill and Maria use constructive criticism, which focuses on the issues, not the person. Bill's dirty socks, Maria's tardiness. Destructive criticism focuses on the person, loses sight of the issue, and is a direct attack on the person. Here's what it typically involves: insults, mild sarcasm, name-calling, and impatience. Here's what happens when Bill and Maria choose destructive criticism and the first horseman enters their relationship. Bill and Maria have their morning routine. He gets up early and makes the coffee while she showers. Then they share a quiet cup of coffee together before they head off to work. Well, this morning, as Maria steps out of the shower, she sees Bill's dirty socks again on the floor. "Bill," she yells impatiently, "you promised to pick up after yourself." "Come on, you can't be that dense," she adds, insult. "What's so hard about picking up your smelly, dirty socks?" Sarcasm. That's the end of their conversation. Bad habits develop. And we're not just talking about dirty socks. We're talking about Poor communication skills. We're talking about the bad habit of using destructive criticism. Maria and Greek time. Maria's upstairs. It's still getting ready for a 7:30 movie. It is 7:20, and it takes 20 minutes to get to the theater. Bill is stewing as he waits. Maria makes her way down the stairs as if nothing is wrong. Bill says, I notice that you have a watch on. Have you ever thought about looking at it once in a while? He uses sarcasm. You've made us late again. He's blaming and impatient. They argue and stay mad. Imagine how the date goes. They don't even talk about it anymore, but more bad habits develop. We're not just talking about how couples handle dirty socks and tardiness. We're talking about choices, how couples have a choice about how they address their differences and difficulties, either constructively or destructively. We could easily be talking about other things like joint or separate checking accounts, replacing the toilet paper roll, getting or forgetting the milk from the store. It could be anything. Enough times we start to lose our patience. Enough times we get critical over the other. If couples choose to address these issues constructively, intimacy grows. However, if couples choose to use destructive criticism, these kind of issues linger and remain unresolved, and couple slides down the slippery slope towards the second horseman. When we can communicate, we can call when you're going to be late and check in. Opening another cereal box when two others are already opened. The in-laws, do we have to spend every Sunday at your parents' house? The car's gas tank, should we fill it when the needle is on empty or before? Your sex life, should we or shouldn't we include snuggle time? The list is endless. Checking account, separate or joint. Toilet paper, did you replace it? Did you forget? Milk, did you buy it? And so forth. But then we have the second horseman, contempt. What is contempt? It's criticism ratcheted up several notches. We have biting insults, threats, shouting, liberal amounts of hateful profanity, hurtful sarcasm, lots of impatience, and destructive criticism. Like criticism, contempt is toxic. Why? Because it gets personal. It is deliberate, hurtful attacks on the other person and the oneness you desire to build. It hurts. Contempt is filled with anger, resentment, revenge, meanness. Let's look at what happens when contempt enters the relationship. Bill and Maria, 6 months later. This is 11 months into Bill and Maria's marriage, and look what's happening. Maria comes home from work. Murphy's Law is in effect all day for her. Everything that can go wrong did go wrong. Bill is also exhausted, sitting in the recliner, channel surfing and decompressing. Maria passes him with barely a glance. Bill grunts as Maria heads to the bedroom to change, and guess what she finds on the floor? She grabs the dirty socks furiously and heads back to Bill in the TV room. She stands in front of the TV, waving their socks, saying, Bill, you are such a blanking jerk. We have profanity and name calling. I'm done picking up after you. Threats. You're so selfish. Insult. Contempt. Then she throws the socks at Bill and leaves. They don't talk a whole night and most of the next day. Maria and Greek time. Maria's car needs some work, right? She didn't fill the gas tank. So Bill agrees to let Maria use his car, which is a mistake. As long as she picks him up after work on time. She agrees and promises to be on time. It's 5 o'clock and Maria has not arrived. She arrives about 5:30. Bill has been standing out in the rain without an umbrella, stewing and becoming increasingly upset. Maria pulls up, and before she even has a chance to say hi, he lays into her. Where the blank have you been? You could be so blank and selfish. Profanity and insults. Sometimes I think we're better off divorced. Threat. I'm so sick and tired of you always. But before he has a chance to finish his attack, she drives off. I knew that would happen. Bill ends up taking a cab home. They don't speak for days. He should get into the car before he starts insulting the driver. They keep sliding down the slope. Notice how quickly a couple can slide into contempt. If enough criticism and contempt enters into a couple's exchanges, the third horseman soon arrives. Defensiveness. Defensiveness is your effort to protect yourself from an attack and from being hurt. Defensiveness builds up a wall between you and your partner in order to protect yourself. Defensiveness blocks connection and undermines oneness. The same wall that couples put up to protect themselves block intimacy. Here's what defensiveness sounds like 18 months after their wedding. Maria, you're such a pathetic slob. Bill reacts, yeah, well, you're Miss Perfect. Bill, you can never be on time. Maria, I'm not always late. Bill, and it's not always my fault. Maria, yes, it is. You started it. Bill, yeah, it's always my fault. People become defensive when they feel attacked to protect themselves from more hurtful attacks, and they point fingers of blame to deflect their partner's criticism and contempt. After enough criticism, contempt, and defensiveness enters a couple's argument, the fourth horseman appears. Stonewalling. Stonewalling is when a person shuts down, shuts up, tunes out, and turns away from the other. Why do spouses stonewall? They're worn down and tired of arguing about the same things in the same hurtful way. They're flooded with negativity like anger, resentment, rage, hurt, and shame. They're sick of being attacked and don't know how to respond or don't want to respond anymore for fear of what they might say or do. So they shut up, they shut down, they tune out, and turn away from one another. By the way, men are more likely to stonewall than women. Have no anxiety about anything, but in everything by prayer and supplication, with thanksgiving, let requests be made known to God. St. Paul writes this to the Philippians. While some people presume that men do not have as many feelings as women, in fact, they do. Women are typically raised from a young age to express and share their emotions. Men are typically not. They're not supported to learn how to express a full range of emotions and more easily become overwhelmed when they are feeling. Bill and Maria, sliding out of control. 24 months into marriage, Bill is shutting down more regularly. In response, Maria is becoming more resentful and angry. Bill stonewalls even more. At this point, they're not even able to effectively talk to each other about practically anything, let alone what they're really struggling with. They are sliding down out of control. Men and women have just as many feelings. In general, women are different from men in the way they experience emotions and in their ability to manage them effectively. Generally, men have more difficulty managing their emotions than women. From what I've read before, infants between boys and girls, where they experience their emotions and their feelings, is in the least evolved part of the brain. I always forget what it's called. But as men and women grow up and mature, women start to experience their feelings and their emotions in the frontal lobe of their brain, the cortex, which is connected to speech. And so they are able, usually more easily able to identify what they're feelings and communicate what they're feeling. On the contrast side, men's feelings generally don't evolve out of that small part of the brain. It doesn't move to the cortex of the brain like it does for women. And so the idea that they can't express what they're feeling is because there's a disconnection in their brain from where they're feeling and where they can speak and communicate. So to say to little Johnny, a young child who's crying, why are you crying? What are you feeling? It's not always surprising when he says, I don't know why I am crying. He can't put the two pieces together. I joked and say, what are you feeling? What feelings? It's so deep inside, I can't even comprehend them sometimes. St. Paul writes to the Romans, rejoice in your hope, be patient in tribulation, be constant in prayer. If these four horsemen hang around long enough, guess what happens? Instead of oneness, two different worlds emerge. Many couples who get caught on the slippery slope begin as soulmates, turn into roommates, end up feeling like cellmates. For this reason, make every effort to supplement your faith with virtue, and virtue with knowledge, and knowledge with self-control, and self-control with steadfastness, and steadfastness with godliness, and godliness with brotherly affection, and brotherly affection with love. Peter writes, notice how quickly, within 2 years of their wedding, Bill and Maria found themselves at the bottom of the slippery slope. Bill continues to stonewall. Eventually, Maria is going to give up. When that happens, the couple disconnects, making it increasingly difficult to come together again. Intimacy has been lost. Trust is gone. Friendship is lost. Hurt, resentment, anger have built up and are filling their relationship. The marriage has melted down and divorce is imminent. It is at this time that couples are susceptible to infidelity. As the marriage melts down, the relationships at work, at the gym, at, at I don't know, other places, seem more attractive. It is easy to talk with someone from the opposite sex at the office than your own spouse. If you allow extramarital relationships to grow, they will rob your marriage of emotional energy and attention and make it unlikely that you'll be able to grow closer to your spouse. Individuals are more likely to engage in an emotional affair long before they have a physical affair. So beware. If marriage is like a road trip, then Bill and Maria are a wreck on the side of the road. So please remember this. In this divorce society, all marriages are vulnerable. Bill and Maria ended up in a very short time at the bottom of the slippery slope. They had a lot of choices along the way, but were not attentive to the warning signs. Marriage is a journey of oneness, which, if you choose, leads towards intimacy and happiness. But if you choose the wrong path, you will end up at the bottom of the slippery slope. So when you see one of the horsemen appear in your marriage, attend to your spouse and marriage on your journey together. So you have to make your spouse a top priority. Make oneness a top priority. Guard against the four horsemen. Beware of the slippery slope so you don't end up as a statistic. At this time, we're going to end the recording.